Hey guys, we're going to read The Burning of Washington D.C. today. This is what you're going to do for Wednesday. So there's not really going to be like a lesson. This is our lesson. So The Burning of Washington D.C. Before we read, hold on. So let's have a brief discussion about what you have learned about the attack on Washington D.C. from the previous chapter. So just go ahead and look at the other chapters and think about what you've learned through them. So you're going to need to have your reader out. So, trouble with the British, the war hawks, the war starts, a famous ship, and now we're at the attack on Washington, D.C., and now we're at the burning of Washington, D.C. So just think about everything that's happened so far. And let's preview the vocabulary. We have charge. That means you're going at something. You're charging at it. And then toast is kind of like a little speech or something that you give usually at weddings or maybe family dinners. It's just like a little speech, and then everyone gives a little toast. Ransacked means that you went through it. Like you can see in this picture they ransacked the house. They just made it a mess. They went through everything and just messed it up. And then you see the word torch, which is just a little something that you can light on fire. Remember that if you do not recall the meaning of a word, you can always look it up in the glossary. The glossary will give you the definition of the word. Let's read the title of the chapter together as a class. We will take a few moments to go through the chapter, looking at the images and reading the captions. So I'm going to change my screen really quick and open up to so here we are. So go ahead and open, and you can pause if you need to open up to chapter 6, The Burning of Washington, D.C. And just kind of scroll through and let's look at the pictures and maybe think about what we think is going to happen. Okay, so we see these pictures. So we can kind of guess at what's going to happen. Something's going to burn. Okay, so let's get back to the first page. So the burning of Washington, D.C. The British Army marched into Washington, D.C. The British soldiers were angry because the U.S. Army had burned York, the capital city of Canada. They planned to get back at the Americans by burning the U.S. Capitol building. The British soldiers went to the Capitol building. This was where the U.S. Congress met. They set it on fire. Then they marched down the hill to the president's house. The British arrived just after Dolly Madison left. They broke down the doors and charged inside. So I want you to pause right here, and you can think about to the last story that we read. Dolly had to get out really quickly. And what was one of the things that she made sure they took? What was it? Right, the painting. She made sure they took the painting of George Washington. So here's the painting that shows the Capitol building after it was set on fire by the British. You can see how that kind of really messed it up right there. The president's house was empty. In the dining room, the table had been set for dinner. The British general sat down with some of his men. They ate dinner. They drank some wine too. As a joke, they toasted President Madison. They lifted up their wine glasses and thanked him for the wine. After dinner, the British soldiers started smashing things. They smashed the dishes, they smashed the table, they smashed the chairs. The soldiers ran up and down in the president's house looking for things to steal. They took the spoons and forks. They took the buckles from Miss Madison's shoes. They even took the love letters her husband had sent her. The house was ransacked. Then the British general ordered his men to set the house on fire. The soldiers lit their torches. Then they went from room to room. They lit the drapes on fire. They burned the beds. They burned the desk and chairs. They even burned Miss Madison's dresses. The British burned the president's house. So here's a picture if you can see it. Then the British marched away. They did not care to take over the city. They just planned to burn it. Burning the city would be a heavy blow. The British hoped the Americans might feel like there was no longer hope and stop fighting. I want you to make a prediction. Do you think they're going to stop fighting or not? Later that day, a storm rolled in. The rain stopped most of the fires, but it was too late. Many of the buildings were already lost. Later in the week, the Madisons came home. The president's house was still standing, but it was a mess. The walls were black with soot. The windows were broken. All of their things had been stolen or burned. They felt they would never call the president's house home again. I want you to stop and think about how they must be feeling right now. What are some of their feelings they might be feeling? Yeah, sad, defeated, angry, upset. Yes. The image shows how the president's house looked after it was burned. So you can see all the burn smoke marks. So now we're going to go back to our slideshow. So why did the British soldiers burn Washington, D.C.? Go ahead and tell me why they burned it. They just wanted us to feel like we didn't have any hope. They wanted us to quit fighting. How were the fires set by the British soldiers put out? What came and put them out? Thankfully, the rain came and put them out, but it was kind of already late. A lot of damage had been done. But thankfully, the rain helped it not be so bad. And why did the Madisons feel they would never call the president's house home again? Why did they feel that way? Go ahead and tell me. Right, because they saw how much damage was done. The house was just a mess, and they thought they'll never be able to fix this. Thank you guys, and remember, you can go back and read this with a family member, or you can partner read it with a family member. You can read these stories. It helps to read them over and over again. This could count towards your 30 minutes of reading time. Bye, guys.